The key behind this is in the center will be a compost tube. And that tube you can make out of various things. What I plan to use is some wide mesh and then just some moss that I get in the forest, just as a medium to hold things in place. What you're going to do is you're going to put your kitchen compost in the tube, and you fill that up and have compost worms in there.
Oh.
And so what happens is the compost worms eat your compost, but they also migrate out into the soil and aerate the soil, fertilize the soil, and keep all that microbial action going.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm in Souk, the south part of Vancouver Island in British Columbia, and I'm with Stephen Hindrichs, whose house is a fabulous experimental place for how do you grow things in small places. Stephen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Janaea.
It's delightful, but what I see you're really dealing with a slope, small spaces, shade, other ways, and I think that your efforts to maximize what you can grow in these odd spaces is really helpful to people. So tell us, I mean, we've got a wall here, you've built a fence, right, to collect heat, is that part of what it does?
It's a southern exposure, so we want to take advantage of it, of course. And the pallet idea, found that on the internet, lots of people are doing it. It's just simply taking an ordinary pallet.
The wood pallet, building, yeah, okay.
And filling it with soil. We're using the wheat cloth as a means to hold the soil in. And then just punching holes in, so you stick, in this case, strawberry plants in. The nice thing about the strawberries is, because one of the problems we have here, if you have strawberries on the ground, the slugs like to get them. So this brings them up off the ground and creates, in a very small footprint, lots of plants.
Yeah.
And so I can still use this as a growing area in the soil. I have this with the southern exposure. And then for the challenge with this is water.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure that the strawberries like regular watering. They don't want to be too heavily watered, or they don't want to be, dried out. So I put in just a little soaker hose here to hook up to the irrigation system. Which I never got around to it last year, but I will this year.
And so the soaker hose is just across the top,
No,
or is it?
I've wound it through here,
I see.
back and forth.
Oh, so that there's a hose with some drip, if you sort of.
Yeah, it's just a slow permeation
by each
of the
plant.
water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what'll happen there is it'll soak the whole thing up. Because I didn't get around to it last year, I just took the hose and filled it up and let it soak through.
Okay.
But it's a little more time consuming that way. Yeah. But of course, if you can get it set up for automatic irrigation, it just simplifies that matter. But,
right.
And it works well. We got lots of strawberries out of it, and we can do more, and it's inexpensive. Free pallet.
Yeah,
just fill it with soil, get some weed cloth, and away you go.
What's up here?
Well, that's again another idea. We had strawberries in that. We got that from one of the local garden supply places.
It's just a leach field. I mean,
ABS pipe.
And
with
the
cut out
holes in
with
it.
the holes, and that worked quite well too. The drawback with this is, again, because it's such a small area of soil, it will dry out quickly. So there again, irrigation is key, and I had irrigation in there as well. But I kind of prefer this. It's just a little simpler. And I like working with wood more than I do with plastic. But it's excellent. So we might just put flowers in that this year, something that does better in a drier soil.
Right. So part of what you're doing is you're experimenting. You're finding out what kind of plants, what kind of exposure, the water and so on. You've got another neat idea for going vertical that I want folks to see. Your tower.
Okay.
You've got a tower.
Into the greenhouse, yes.
This is the tower, right? But you're growing lettuces in the middle of winter.
Yeah. It's called a tower garden. It's something that I found through one of our local CD Saturdays. A woman was demonstrating these, and I was quite intrigued with it. And initially I thought, it's an aeroponic system. I don't know if that's something I'm thinking about growing in soil, but then when I looked at the advantages of it, part of it, the fact that you can grow vertically.
Yes.
and there's a nutrient solution in here that you can fill up and add just some concentrated nutrient.
Well, it's a tub with
Yeah.
water,
And
right?
it holds the water.
And so that has the food, the plant food.
Yeah.
Is
And
in
then
there.
it pumps it up to the top of the tower, and then it just drips down, and it floods the roots. They're in little rock wool cubes. And it does it for 15 minutes on and 15 minutes off.
So it's not, there's no dirt here, really.
There's no dirt at
It's
all.
just aqua, it's just water.
Yeah, so it's like an aquaponic system, or they call it more of an aeroponic system, because it gets more aeration, so the roots are not always in the liquid, so they alternate back and forth, and it tends to stimulate the growth a little bit better. To give you an example, I started these seedlings probably 6 weeks ago. It's been in here about 3 weeks now, and I have, if you can look at down here, these are all the same size from the same batch. These are planted in the ground, and these are the ones, of course, that are in the tower.
Which
You see the
are
growth difference.
Tremendously, I mean, 5-6 times
Yeah.
larger than.
Because, it's readily available nutrients, and plus what I'm doing, because in the winter time now, it being colder, what I've done is I've put a fish tank heater in there to keep the level of the liquid, keep it warmer, and we have a little heater going in the greenhouse that will just come in when it gets below freezing.
So the greenhouse, so both the air and the water will be a little bit warmer, which will help them to grow.
That's right. So you can see the amount of growth, and it's quite spectacular. In the summertime, I had an extension on here, so I can put an extension, make it even taller. And I had tomatoes and cucumbers, peppers, and it was a virtual jungle in here.
Jungle. Wow.
It was, yeah. In fact, I had to keep cutting back because it wants to grow so much.
That's exciting. I mean, that's really seems to be like a fabulous solution for somebody who's, only got a small balcony or just by the windows and by their house or an apartment or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think it would work indoors, in-house?
You could certainly use it indoors as long as you have enough light, but there's also the option for supplemental lighting if you want.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It's something I want to do in the greenhouse as well, because of course in the wintertime we don't get as much light, and you want to get more light for growth. And for lettuces it's important too, because even though they'll grow in the cool temperatures, but the lack of light, apparently the lettuces can build up in higher in nitrates, and you don't want, so because of lack of light, so by adding supplemental light that can alleviate that issue. But I think it's a fascinating idea, and it's because it's so small, and you can, if you don't have a greenhouse, you build your own little greenhouse on it.
Oh.
Just with,
Just
poles, you just create your own.
Wrap it with some plastic or something like that.
Yeah, and I have, like, I stick poles in here in when I'm growing the tomatoes for something like a tomato cage.
Oh.
Yeah, you can buy a tomato cage from this company, or you can make your
Just
own.
make your own. Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
various things. I think it's an excellent idea. You're using the liquid that you get comes in 2 parts. You have to buy it from the company. I mean, I don't know, you could possibly make your own, but it's been formulated for an aeroponic system as opposed to the hydroponic system. So 2 gallons, I think, is about $75, and it should last for over a year.
Okay.
So, but when you look at how much you pay for fresh organic lettuce, I think it pays for itself fairly quickly. And it's just another option. I mean, I still love growing in dirt, and it's something that I will continue to do, and I think is the best way to grow. But for people that have limited space, I think this is a great solution. And this stuff seems to grow well. I mean, these were in the tower garden last year, the lettuces in the shard, and I just stuck them in the ground, and look what they're doing.
They're just happy.
And
It's
they
like
keep growing.
got a good start.
And I've had multiple harvests from them.
So, I mean, so what it looks like is for a relatively small space and an investment in the nutrients, you're getting a really good bounty out of this.
Yeah, I think so. It's huge.
You're also working on a project to sort of do your own do-it-yourself version of this. So why don't you show us what you got in mind for that?
Certainly will do. Okay. In the garage.
Well, this is a bit bigger than your tower.
Yeah, it's a different concept, and how I got the idea of this is actually, that tower is called a tower garden. That's what the marketed name is. So in recent researching on the internet, I came across this called the Garden Tower. And so, what's this? And it's a company in the States that are using this concept, using a plastic barrel, growing in it, with holes in the side for the plants. And I thought, what a great idea, but can I make one myself? So I thought, how can I do it? And I thought, well, a wine barrel. I bought this at the local lumber store. cut the top off, and so what the idea behind this is, again, it's vertical growing space. So this will be filled with soil. And then I've just started, I haven't finished it, I'm just cutting holes all along here. So there'll be 40 or 50 holes in the side of the barrel.
And the soil will come to the edge of in here.
Yeah, I'll probably have to use a bit of root cloth just to hold the soil from falling out initially anyways, and then put my plants in there. And they'll grow out the side. But the key behind this is in the center will be a compost tube. And that tube you can make out of various things. What I plan to use is some wide mesh and then just some moss that I get in the forest, just as a medium to hold things in place. What you're going to do is you're going to put your kitchen compost in the tube, and you fill that up and have compost worms in there.
Oh.
And so what happens is the compost worms eat your compost, but they also migrate out into the soil and aerate the soil, fertilize the soil, and keep all that microbial action going. So there'll be just a little lid here, you throw your compost in, and it'll work its way out.
So what I hear is that's your vermiculture. You're doing a worm bin of sorts.
Exactly.
Inside. Yeah. How do you keep it moist all the way to the bottom?
Just by your regular watering.
So just the watering from the top will do or the water that's in the compost will seep its way?
Certainly, depending how wet your compost is, there'll be a certain amount of moisture that will migrate out, but you'll have to water it as you would anything. And the other key feature is that in the bottom there'll be a drain hole, or a couple of drain holes, with a pan underneath. I'll probably raise this up a little higher so that you'll collect the leach. So all the nutrients that are often washed out on a regular planter disappear. You collect that, and then you can recycle it or put it somewhere else, because there's a lot of nutrients there that get washed out in this situation.
I really love how what you're doing is it's recycling everything, so nothing's lost.
That's right.
Right, nothing is lost in the
And that's crucial there, I think. And then with having the worms and the high fertility in a very small space, you'll be able to grow lots of different plants, out the sides, out the tops. And green vegetables, you can grow squashes, cucumbers, whatever you want to grow.
Oh, I can imagine. I just have this picture of this little hole. From this little hole here, it's like the squash is just, everybody, because you've got plenty of room for that.
And I'm probably going to put it on our back deck, and I might try to keep it on rollers so I can move it around easily. But there again, it's an option, small space, the footprint is quite small, but because you're going up, it gives you a lot more growing area.
Great ideas. Thank you.
Well, you're most
Good
welcome.
luck. We expect to see pictures of what
well,
happens
hopefully
to
I can
this
show you
when
this thing just full. Here you probably won't be able to see the barrel anymore.
That'll be fabulous. I love that.
But there's so many neat ideas out there. I mean, they're not unique. I didn't think them up, but you go out there and wonderful ideas of what people are doing, working with small spaces, working with what they've got, and there's lots out there that just get you excited about growing anywhere. So,
there you go. Get excited about growing where you are. What I like about some of these is that even if you're a renter, you can do a portable version, a smaller version of one of these and take it with you.
Exactly, yeah. It's portable.
Thank you. It's been a nice little mini tour, and I'm pleased to be able to show people some of the inventiveness that is productive.
Oh, thanks for spreading the word.
Thank you. You're watching Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. Grow it up. Take care. We'll see you next time.